welcome. I am Sarah Martin and I am the quitting coach and looking to come on and always start with sharing a practice that we can take through the week and ending with a little reflection challenge or something to kind of pay attention to through the week. And today I want to talk about leaning into love versus fear, leaning into abundance versus scarcity, and really just noticing, right? Noticing what does fear feel like in our bodies. And, many of us leaning towards pleasure versus pain, right? So when we're talking about things that are keeping us stuck or habits we're looking to quit, a lot of times we're really just looking to avoid pain, avoid our fears, avoid feeling anything at all, right? So whether it's alcohol or just constant doing, right? Just constantly being in motion, believe it or not, can be a form of addiction. And as I've shared here, if you're just joining me on this episode, pretty much any addiction you can name, I have had it or had them. And I watch myself that I can go very extreme very quickly in my thinking, right? So most of what keeps us stuck is the way that we think, right? So I want to just, again, just experience this in the body first, because, for me, I was reading every self-help book I could get my hands on for, 20 years. And it wasn't until I started going to yoga and I started to understand breath work and meditation and what things feel like in my body that I was able to start healing, right? Because your mind just wants to get it right, right? So I would read the concepts and then basically just judge myself even more because I wasn't doing it right or I couldn't get it. I needed to experience it in my body. So we're gonna just play a little bit here if you will play along with me here. So last week we practiced with the hands on the heart and how that can really just calm us, right? So understanding that we're never going to live without fear. So I'm going to get into this as well, but again, so many of us get on some kind of spiritual path or start doing some work and we think, oh, I'm going to get to ride on the pink cloud, right? I'm working with a client right now and she's really bummed out to find out that life just keeps still coming at us. So again, it's more being able to remain centered and be the eye in the storm, right? Be that centered peace even when things are coming at you. So this is the practice. So bringing those hands to your heart and closing your eyes. And my favorite yoga teacher actually just brought this into class this week and said that she had read that by doing this, right, just closing your eyes, and in fact, bringing up something that maybe you're scared of, maybe you have a public speaking engagement or a hard conversation you have to have, or there's a change you need to make, go ahead and bring that up and just sense what that feels like in your body, right? Is it in the lower belly, chest? Does your throat feel constricted? Do your shoulders tense up, your jaw? And just noticing when you try on, I have to do this thing, or I know I need to make this change. Where do you feel that in your body? So just noticing it. And then with those hands on the heart, again, the research shows that when you put your hands on your heart and just bring in the feeling of I am safe in this moment, that it brings up serotonin and oxytocin, similar to that of receiving a hug. So you can do this for yourself with the hands on the heart and then just softening the part of the body, especially where you're feeling the sensations. And they might move around a little bit. They might even intensify as you pay attention to them. But again, just noticing, being with those sensations. bringing your attention there through your breath. And softening the shoulders, softening the jaw, softening the belly. Taking a nice, really big belly breath and then a nice audible exhale. 2 more like that. Inhale, belly breath. Really dramatically releasing the shoulders on that exhale. Inhaling in. And another exhale. And if you're in a space to do this, this is the next thing I want to offer here for the practice. I'm not going to demo it for the sake of the camera, but of getting up and just hinging at the hips. So standing up and just letting yourself have a forward fold. So bending over, you can grab your opposite elbows and just let your head hang. And again, that breath from the top of the head coming into the belly. 3 times. Exhaling out. Okay, and letting that belly just rest on the knees. There's nothing active here. You're just letting go. Inhaling into the belly and exhaling, release. So this forward fold is a yoga pose. You can sit back down, or if you're driving, just think about doing that later. I always say I want to make forward fold socially acceptable at work and when you're in the middle of a conversation with someone and you start feeling your anxiety rise or whatever it is. I used to run into the bathroom at work to do these forward folds. So super great practice of just releasing anxiety, fear, obsessive thinking for sure, making this a practice, maybe when you first wake up or transitioning from home from work, just playing, and also really great for your lower back and releasing and stretching your back as well. So I hope you'll play with those as I'm asking also, or making a suggestion of, let's start paying attention to our fears a little bit more, right? And so many of us, again, really want to avoid that. Like, no, thank you, right? It can start raising some anxiety, just the word fear, right? And it keeps so many of us stuck. And it keeps us in some really bad habits sometimes as we're just avoiding pain or fear or the scarcity. And there's a wonderful book called A Course in Miracles, which my friend and I did every single day last year. And I'm not gonna lie, it was torture. It was a lot to go into deep reflection every single day, and we just held space to do that. And if you want a really simple way to break down A Course in Miracles, Marianne Williamson's A Return to Love is a fantastic book to get your hands on for a deeper dive into this concept that, again, our brain and our ego is just looking to keep us safe, right? So there's a few different things at play here, okay? So most of us are programmed either to have a positive mind or a negative mind, right? And negative, again, not being bad. And what helps when we're on this quitting journey is acceptance of all of it, right? So when I was early on this journey, and most of my life, I would do anything to avoid pain. I am a positive-minded person. And again, hypercritical of myself at the same time. So positive-minded as far as being optimistic that things are going to work out, or, believing and having faith in something larger than myself, but yet, some of my trauma and some of my makeup is to just be hypercritical of myself, which is, mostly the American way here too, of, we're never enough. We're never doing it right. You got to achieve more. You got to have more money. You have to be thinner, all of the things that are, bombarded to us as well. This is messaging that is imprinted in our brain. So negative-minded people, again, we associate negativity to the word negative, but negative-minded people really are your problem solvers, right? So they're really looking for solutions to things. And, certainly it can be tough to be in that mindset, and probably a lot more fear associated with negative minded folks who are, trying to stay one step ahead and, have some more fears and feel like if they play the scenarios out, they are keeping themselves safe. So that's why it's important to notice these things in your body, right? As we start to want to reprogram these thoughts and these fears and the things that keep us stuck, right? So being aware of, okay, here comes that sensation. And again, they might be different for different things, but sharing my journey of leaving my corporate job in the last year, and really some of the stories that kept me stuck for probably 7 or 8 years. I've shared here before that, I really thought when I got on this journey of really doing yoga and meditation and raising my vibration and really quitting alcohol, made me feel like a huge outsider at work, because everyone was drinking and like that, they were all friends and they bonded, and I used to be in that group, but I felt even more of an outsider when I stopped drinking. And again, not anything that really anybody did to me, but it was stories in my head, right? You don't fit in, all the things. So, again, really cool things started happening at work when I thought I was going to have to leave 7 or 8 years ago. We had a new vice president come in and loosen things up. But certainly in the last 2 or 3 years, things were getting really heavy. I got taken off of the high vibrational feel good projects. And I could just feel like I was, especially during COVID, I'm like, I'm just not cut out for this. And this is not an environment that I'm aligned with, right? That is paying minimum wage to the people getting the work done and that are on the front lines, having toilet paper thrown at them while, the CEOs and everyone else at the top just keeps getting promoted and more money in their pockets and eventually selling the company and riding off to the sunset with millions. I'm really not aligned with that. Like, I just, I believe in abundance, but I also believe in fairness. So it was really not feeling good in my body. And I was in a job that was constant conflict, right? I mean, people, threatening to commit suicide, threatening death threats to our store managers. It got really extreme the last few years. So, but but there's a lot of fear, right? So you can equate fear with scarcity, right? There's not enough to go around. We can equate fear with, safety, right? Of not feeling safe. And again, so many of us have experiences either as kids or, throughout our lives that do start to ingrain this feeling within us. So my story about leaving this job, because it was a very good paying job, right? I had benefits. My oldest is going to college. So I had all these stories of like, I had to get to 55 at least, right? And I'm not the best financially savvy person, but I had this number in my head that I had to get there. And I left a message actually for somebody that I had worked with and thought a lot of over the weekend, that, it was like a bad relationship that I just stayed in, right? Too long, because things got kind of ugly. So here's the thing about not dealing with your fear or not dealing with the scarcity and the things, right? Is that we are creating our own reality, right? So we talked about law of attraction and your vibration, and, like energy attracts like energy. So if I'm not aligned and I'm not happy there, right? And I'm miserable and I have a very open throat chakra, so I'm speaking out. They don't want that. They know I don't belong there either, right? So I would love to say that I was just brave and courageous, in leaving this job, but I also knew, like, if I don't go, I'm going to be fired, right? If this is not working out for either side, right? When we're not aligned, it doesn't work out for either side. So I had these stories though, right? Of like, well, what am I going to do? I don't think I want to do human resources anymore, in this capacity at least. And I know that I want to teach yoga and meditation and all of the tools, the thought work and the energy work and all the things that I do in my coaching business, I know I want to do that for a living, right? But there's so many stories to tell me why I couldn't, right? Like, you can't do this, and your oldest is going to college. Like, this is not the time. You can't do this. And again, it just got to a point where it got so uncomfortable that I couldn't not do this, right? Capital negative. I'm sure that's bad English, but we've all probably been there, right? Where it's like you knew you had to go, whether it be a relationship, a job. Again, maybe it was one of these habits that started making you sick, right? And that you knew you need to start giving it up, or you need to consider giving it up. So again, when we are not aligned, universe will keep knocking. Hey, are you listening yet? Are you listening yet? So again, I just had these stories of like, I had to carry the insurance. I have to pay for college. What am I going to do? And I started changing that mindset. I started just changing like, no, it's time to go. And I have some pension money that can help me during the transition. And I'm going to do this. I just got courageous enough that I knew it was time. I had to go. So I made this decision, and, again, I'd be lying if I said dark night of the soul, right? Is when you just really feel like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do what am I going to do? So I had this moment, and this is just an example of the universe providing, right? Of like training yourself to reach for faith. And I'll share a little bit more about how we do this, but I just want to share this story of, synergies and things coming to hold me as I step onto my path a little further. So legit having like a panic attack, right? One night of like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I could, be a shopper. I can do that. Shops for you, Instacart. Like, I know how to make money, and I'm not above waitressing or any of the things that I've done in my youth. So, but I'm having this anxiety attack, right? Of like, just whoosh, like, okay, you're really just going to quit this job with very little money, right? The pension money I didn't think was that high. So there's two different stories here of the abundance mindset that I had been practicing for years, right? Always trusting, always believing. I had a point where I had $20 in the bank, and I just kept believing and trusting. And, again, it was easier to do when I was in my corporate job and I had a constant paycheck. That was easier to do because there was always something coming. So I always made it. I always just made it and trusted. And I think that's where the panic was coming of like, okay, but you're not going to have that. For 25 years, I had a weekly paycheck. So the anxiety comes, I'm panicking. Now, all week long, I had been looking at this sign, literal sign across the street in a neighbor's yard. It was Pinnacle Roofing Company. Okay, so it's just, I don't know, I'd been noticing it. And somehow I ended up talking to a friend the next day. I think I shared this, fear that was a very visceral, and it was a whole body experience. And, I did pray that night. And again, again, it depends what you believe in, or, and I'm still sorting that out on this journey. But somebody had told me, an energy worker I had healing done, said, just, you need to pray out loud, So when I get really crazy, I just said, please help me, right? Please help me feel safe, because it was not a comfortable feeling at all. So long story longer, my friend says, well, what about some HR consulting work? We keep a consultant on retainer at this place that she worked. And she gave me this woman's name, and we connected. And the company at that time was called Pinnacle Human Resources. So this literal sign had been, in my vision for a week. I hook up with this woman. She actually was a consultant at the company that I worked for, so we hit it off instantly. And really, she would have given me work that day, but I knew I wanted 3 months to land, right? To take a breath. I've been working since I was 14. I wanted to take a breath. The only breaths I've had was, when I had a baby in my arms. So that was scary all in itself. But again, what ended up happening, again, long story longer, I just reached out for her at some point, I think January, February, just to understand, because I was like, oh, am I supposed to own an HR consulting business? I don't know. Because I know a lot of unhappy HR people, and could I make it a great environment and whatever. So when I reached out for her, she said, oh, great timing, we're hiring. And again, long story longer, this safety net I have right now is doing some HR consulting work, which again, that may not be my long-term goal. I want to do an episode on lily pads and one next right action. So we'll talk about that too. But again, it's this, little bi-weekly paycheck that holds me, right? And gives me the space to continue to do the coaching and teach yoga and put these episodes out there and start really putting all of the healing work and the wonderful work that I've had gifted to me and that I have sought out into the world. So I know that's my passion and that's my true gift. I've been getting messages this week about teaching yoga for sure, and all of the teaching and sharing that, it is helping people and that this is my gift in the world. So I share all of that just to have you start watching, right? Have you start retraining your brain, right? When that fear comes up of, again, it can be hands on heart. I am safe. I'm safe in this moment, right? So your brain will create, again, broken homeless for me, within 30 seconds or less when I'm in that panic mode, when I'm in like, what are you doing giving up this huge safety net, right? And so many other things happen to help hold me. That pension money was 4 times what my last statement had said by the time it got to me, right? Insurance, I had told myself I had to carry this insurance. I have insurance for free for me and my kids for a year. I was shocked. So all of the safety net, we hear that, take the leap and you will be caught, right? The net will be there for you. It's really hard to believe, but I'm here to tell you that it's true. And again, I want to come on probably next week and talk about lily pads. And again, that it doesn't have to be jumping off the 900-foot cliff, right? It might just be, scaling down 9 feet, walking down 9 feet so that it's a little less of a leap and just taking that one next right action, right? Of like, okay, again, and facing those fears, right? It's not the avoiding the fear. It is bringing the fear in and making friends with it, right? This is what I learned, because I would always, so positive-minded people, they'll want to just not. We just want to stay in pleasure, avoid pain, reach for abundance and not deal with the fear at all. So if that's you, don't run from it. Acknowledge it, right? And a lot of like bringing it into the heart is where we transform and transmute it. Bring it in like a young kid, right? Like it probably is your inner child, right? Of like, I see you, I feel you. Of course you're scared. You've had a weekly paycheck for 25 years. Of course you're scared. You have to have this conversation with somebody and you're afraid of losing their love or afraid of upsetting them, but it's important. Of course you're scared. And you bring that fear in and you let the sensation be there, right? You just breathe through it. And usually within minutes, it dissipates. It's the avoiding it that keeps it intact in your body and builds up, right? And cause dis-ease. You've probably heard this, right? But this is where a lot of disease comes from, is just packing it in, right? And we stay so busy that we don't sit with it at all. So again, it's not that you get to ride this cloud of faith and abundance and, pleasure, right? It's that, no, I want to make friends with the fear and the scarcity and understand it, right? One of my favorite teachers, Danielle Laporte, says, when you are in the fear, when you are feeling a panic attack or scarcity, that is the time that we reach for our faith even more, right? That's the time that the deep growth happens. When you start doing this on a regular basis, you start being thankful for the fear and the deep emotion and the things that are scary to you or causing these body sensations. If you can sit with them, you know that when you start being with them and loving them and bringing them into the heart and understanding them, saying, I see you, they start dissipating, and then they start making room for miracles, right? For somebody to say, oh, hey, here's this HR consulting firm. Here's your safety net, right? For you to come in your heart before you have that hard conversation, and for you to be so surprised that the person you're talking to says, I understand, or I've been feeling the same way, or you just come to a deeper connection through it. Or you take that one next right action of, this is what I know I've been put on this earth to do, whether it just be painting a painting or, again, even sometimes just sharing something on Facebook. I used to be petrified just to post on Facebook, just to share who I was at all. So sometimes it's just these little baby steps of, pushing through, putting that resume out there. Like, what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose, really? And coming back to that heart, softening the body, maybe incorporating those forward folds a little bit more. But again, just watching, when am I coming into fear? When am I coming into scarcity? When am I playing out worst case scenario? And before reaching for, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay, right? Because we just want to make ourselves safe. Come into that deep understanding. Oh, yeah, of course you're scared. Of course you're scared because this has happened before. Like, you have some data that, this person does come back at you in rage or anger. And maybe this is the last conversation I'm having with that person, right? But I'm going to set the boundary and I'm going to speak my truth. And I'm going to be courageous. And I'm going to learn to calm myself with my hands on my heart, my breath. I'm going to take the forward folds and mostly just noticing, right? Just noticing when that fear arises and just noticing and getting into this self-acceptance. And it can be so helpful when you're looking to quit something, right? When you're looking to quit, a lot of times that fear comes up and we just grab our phone and we start scrolling, right? Or we grab the bag of potato chips and we just start eating, or we take the beverage, whatever it is. That's mostly why we have these habits or these things that we want to lean into quitting. It's going to involve feeling these feelings and feeling this fear. But I promise you, the more you do it, the quicker it dissipates. The biggest challenge is the fear of the fear, right? It's like, oh no, here it comes. Especially if you deal with anxiety, those are tough. But that forward fold and getting on the ground and staying connected to your breath can be so, so helpful. And if you want to explore this further and deeper for yourself, I run a 12-week weekly coaching program where we can really explore your flavors of fear and scarcity and what many of the recovery rooms call stinking thinking, right? Changing our thoughts in order to change the sensations in our body, and really how do we sit with this and what are the practices. So again, you can find me at www.soul-search.com. Soul is spelled S-O-L. You can find me at Sarah Martin Quitting Coach on Facebook, or just the Quitting Coach on Instagram. And subscribe here, share this with anyone who you think might benefit from getting to know themselves a little more, who might be looking to quit some destructive habits or a soul-sucking job or a relationship that's no longer serving them. And I'm here to really serve those who want to live to their fullest potential And sometimes that involves quitting. And just so honored to be here and wishing you all the best and just staying reflective this week. Hands on heart, softening the belly. Sounds so simple, can be so magical. Much love.